This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs wide.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Brandon! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robinson do. Taylor, one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Here's Bob Williams. He's through here! And in the end, Forrest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it.
Hello and welcome back to Red Side of the Trent. This is your preview / monthly review of the month so far of the Premier League as we look forward to Forest hosting Burnley on the Monday Night Football. I am joined by Christian Brown and Reiss Lane. No Lee Clark, however, today. Reiss, how was your holiday? Are you well? Plenty of gyros? Does it compare to Ava's Grill as well?
The holiday was brilliant. The gyros wasn't better than Eva's because they are the king, in my opinion. But it was like half the price of Eva's, so that was good. I've been speaking to Leah, but I found a dish called, I think it's a Giovezzi, it's called, which I'm kind of in love with it now. So yeah, it was a great holiday, and it was the perfect start because literally got to the hotel about 20 minutes before kickoff. The owner of the hotel was like, "Oh, I can put any game on the TV." He was like, "Obviously, seeing the Forest shows, I'll put Forest on for you." And then he turned around and went, "What league of Forest in the Championship?" Which was like a great start to the week. I was like, "Don't offend me, but obviously they say never forget your roots." But I don't want to go back to the EFL. So yeah, he put the game on, and it was lovely start to holidays. See us get a famous win, really.
I mean, the viewers will be delighted to see you've picked up 0 tan, obviously.
And I'm not on my arms, maybe a little bit, and on my legs. But I probably get that with driving around the country anyway in the hot, in the heat, should I say? I'm not one to lie on a sunbed for hours, I must say. Rather go in the pool.
Yeah, Christian, you all right? Wearing a Richmond shirt. I thought it was Crystal Palace when I first seen it.
No, apparently not. No, AFC Richmond. So yeah, Ted Lasso special.
Are you well?
Not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Yeah.
Have you enjoyed
after seeing some of the transfer news today? But yeah, very happy.
Well, yeah, we've got some outgoings. Have you enjoyed the international break, or has it been abysmal? Or are you happy that Forest and Premier League football is back this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy it's back. I think it's weird, isn't it? International break. Like sometimes it all depends on how you. I mean, we've already got high for a win for like 2 weeks now, I guess, haven't we? Essentially. But it's weird. We're at a point now where we're kind of eagerly anticipating the next game. I think we're at a stage similar to where we're in the Championship, where you sort of want Forest to play again tomorrow because you're that much into it and that much enjoying things. So it's a bit like that. It's sort of just chomping a bit for Monday, really.
Yeah, I feel like we had a few momentum spells before breaks last season, but we're going to do a bit of I say like a monthly review, kind of something quite brief, because obviously, Reiss, you weren't here last week. I don't know if you managed to listen to the old pod last week, because it was a bumper episode. And I mean, thank you for all the views that we got on our YouTube. I mean, that was a bit mental, 3.5k views. That was nice to see. Reiss, did you enjoy last week's, the pod that we did last?
What would you say if I turned around and said, no, it was fucking wank? What could you say to that? No, I
can't really say out, can I? I can't really say out, can I?
I'll give you a diplomatic answer. No, it was a good listen. Obviously, when it's full of positivity, it's great, isn't it? Because we said, we got, which would probably be a famous away win, really, in the Premier League, to beat a squad who's been assembled for over £1 billion, if you believe the media's reaction to it. And then obviously the new signings, and I think the signing of Sangaro, which everyone really wanted to get over the line, we got over the line. So, and then we seem to be trimming the so-called bomb squad, as Christian's just mentioned. So all round at the minute, really positive.
Yeah, so we've started the season with 2 wins and 2 losses. Obviously, the wins coming against Sheffield United and Chelsea, as you just mentioned. Losses against Man United and Arsenal. Reiss, what do you think has been the reason for our away performance has been so good so early? Because obviously we all looked at the fixture list at the start of the season, and we thought, well, who's fiddled this? Because it's been it's a tough one to look. You kind of look at them and go, well, we get 1 or 2 points at least. And I know we've still got Man City and Liverpool to come soon, obviously out of the big sides, and Crystal Palace have started very well as well.
Just probably, I'd say belief. Really, I mean, we had a bit of obviously had a bit of not a go, but disappointment with last season's performances away from home against some of the bigger sides, where we, I think, unanimously said between us that we kind of went there to the likes of Arsenal, Man United, and City, and we rolled over and had his bellies tickled. Really,
that's for the bingo.
Yeah, I mean the one game where against the Big Six club, you can kind of say we did do well last season was Liverpool away, where we actually had a bit of a go, and apart from some Sunday League defending that day, we actually came out with a respectable scoreline despite losing the game. So I think we kind of took some belief from that, and obviously the Chelsea game as well last season, but they was an absolute mess, weren't they, last season?
Still are, to be honest.
Yeah, to a certain degree, but they've actually got a manager in now who can do the job rather than a PE teacher they had in interim charge last season. So yeah, just a bit of belief. I mean, the Arsenal game, it was a bit tough, wasn't it, until we actually scored, and then we got back in the game, and we all felt a little bit disappointed that we could have actually got something out of the game because Arsenal were treated a little bit, and you could see a little bit of frailties from probably last season with Arsenal as Fulham managed to punish because they got a draw, didn't they, with 10 men, I believe, late on. So Manchester United the same. I mean, we didn't even lay a glove on them home or away last season, didn't score. Obviously went 2-0 up in quick time fashion after 5 minutes, and it was kind of shit. We've actually got another 100 minutes to play here in the modern game. So it was just obviously a shame we kind of gave away that first goal, didn't we? And then obviously with some refereeing decisions and that we ended up getting beat. But even with 10 men in that game, we're still really in the game. So there was nothing really you could have a massive go at the team for in that performance. And obviously we took it on to Chelsea, where the first half I thought was pretty even. I thought we was pretty solid in terms of just stopping them from creating much at all. And then obviously I think it was Caicedo who was it a bad touch, and Yates and Mangala pressed on him. We got the ball back, got it into Taro, who gave Thiago Silva the absolute runaround. I thought Thiago Silva, who's probably one of the best centre-backs of this generation, I thought he really struggled with him, and Taro slipped it through his legs, and then Alanga absolutely blew Levi Colwill, who a lot of people want in the England team, and it was a one touch and a brilliant finish when it into the corner. And to be honest, I watched the game, like I said, in Greece. I didn't really feel in danger. I know they had the chance with Jackson, which he should have scored, to be fair, but I think was they maybe 7 or 8 minutes added time. Chelsea were just chucking it into the box, and we've got McKenna, Warren, and Bolly all in there. Who are big lads, just headed it out, and that's all they needed to do. Bodies on the line, stuff, and we fully deserved that win. So it's been a much more positive start overall, and especially away from home. That's for sure.
Could have played it throughout this international break. I don't think they would have scored. But Christian, do you remember when pre-season was happening and everyone's heads were falling off? How quickly those memories have gone. But I did want to ask you about the only home game we had was against Sheffield United, and it wasn't. The result was brilliant, but the performance wasn't there or thereabouts. But that kind of gives you a bit more hope. There's going to be a lot more to come, would you not think, especially after that last result?
You think so? I think you're right. It's weird that prior, even the games we lost, I'd say we probably performed better at Arsenal and United than we did against Sheffield United at home. And yet we got 3 points from that game and got 0 from the other two. It's funny how football works sometimes. But it's that was it was very typical Forest, that game with Sheffield United, wasn't it? We could have blown them away. We could have very feasibly should have been 3 or 4 up inside the first half hour, but weren't. And obviously, the longer it stayed at 1-0, the more that chance optimism grew in their camps. And And obviously we won in the end, and Heckingbottom went home fuming. So that's the big win from that. But no, it's funny about the whole pre-season thing. If you notice, like I said before, all the oh, Ross Wilson's a clown, oh, Ross Wilson's a fraud, oh, Ross Wilson this, that, and the other, with people who had absolutely no idea what his job spec was, just willingly finding a scapegoat to the fact that Forest hadn't signed 1 billion players again. And now suddenly there's not a single word about it, is there? No one's saying anything. I always find it funny with pre-season. Like, it was the same, like I said at the time when we lost 5-0 to Red and everyone went fucking ballistic. It was like half. I think 5 players in that game actually might have been in our first team now. Everyone else is gone pretty much. Like, and we're playing an experimental formation. I think we went for a 4-4-2, which I don't think we've ever done on the Cooper ever. And like, everyone just going absolutely crazy. So I said at the time, like, look, what happens in pre-season won't determine what we do in like 5-6 weeks' time. And here we are 5-6 weeks later. We've beaten Chelsea, we've beaten Sheffield United, we've been conned by a ref at Old Trafford. And I reckon if we had an extra 10 minutes at Arsenal, we might have even got an equaliser. I think we left it a little bit too late to sort of go, you know what, we can get something here. But so it goes to show that, pre-season isn't relative to how your actual season will go. But I mean, what we have to be aware of, obviously, is we are only 4 games in. I mean, Leeds had 7 points this time last season; they still went down. So, take nothing for granted. We've still got a long road ahead of us yet, but it is nice to be looking. It's looking a lot more rosy than it was this time last year. Put it that way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a question for you both, but I'll start with you, Christian, because you're already off mute. But who's really impressed you so far this season, barring the obvious of Taco One day, because he's obviously getting all the plaudits. I mean, hopefully he'll get Player of the Month. I mean, there's loads of people trying to get clamour to the Taylor Swift fans to try and get him the vote, aren't they?
That's funny, yeah. I think I've been really impressed with Ola Aina so far. Whenever he's played, he's always very steady, very good. For a free transfer as well. I mean, looks like a right good find that. So yeah, he's looked very confident on the ball. Like I do think sometimes, like, if he gets caught out, like he was getting caught out a few times at United, it's like, oh Christ, like it's a long way back. But generally speaking, I think it's just almost like risk reward sort of types of players. But he does seem very good. Like, he gets stuck in well, he reads the game well, carries the ball very well. As free transfers go, and obviously, like, with his versatility as well, it could be quite a pickup for us, which is quite nice to see. So I think he's definitely been the underrated one so far, if you like. Aside from that, I mean, say Ryan Yates, wouldn't you really? He's been exceptional every game he's played in. And it's great to see, really. I mean, if you think how far he's come, we've started this pod 2. I saw the other day, actually, it was 2 years ago, I think yesterday, the day before, we lost 2-1 at home to Cardiff with Houghton in charge, and having got a goal up. And then, it wasn't that long after the Stoke game where I think Ryan Yates must have had it in his contract that day that if he passed forward, he'd been fined. And he's gone from that to like dominating at Premier League midfield level. It's insane. So yeah, I think Yates and Aina have been my 2 picks so far, aside from the obvious. But even some of the more obvious picks are yet to get going, really. I mean, Gibbs White's not been at the level we know he is just yet. Obviously, he's just gearing up to that. And it's looking. I've got Niakate and Felipe still haven't been played much yet. I know Niakate's got the odd sub appearance here and there. So it's from that side of things, it's looking very promising.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I mentioned Ryan Yates to the Chelsea fans in the previews to that, and said how much of a nuisance he would be. And lo and behold, he definitely was. Reiss, obviously, same question goes for you. Who have you been impressed by? Who do you think there's more to come from?
Like Christian said, it is hard because it is really early days. I think the goalkeeper Turner's done quite well. To say that there was obviously an Athletic report this week, if you want to believe them or not, that they see the Greek goalkeeper as number 1. I actually thought he, amongst others as well, with all these new signings, really stepped up at Chelsea. And it was kind of like, look, there's somebody behind you now who wants your shirt. You need to go up a gear and try and keep your shirt. And I thought he did that really well. He's good. He's really good coming off his line quickly. So that's good competition to have. To have 2, it looks, hopefully, fingers crossed, solid goalkeepers. I was going to mention Gatesy, but obviously Christian's covered him. I can't, going on the last game, obviously, really impressed with the finish from Alanga, I'd say, because we had a chat, didn't we, in pre-season, how, he's a young lad, his end product at United hadn't been the best, and we need to see, as with young players, that end product come out, and that was an excellent finish. Paul Merson described it as Thierry Henry like, didn't he? I mean, to get your finishing described as Thierry Henry like is one of the highest compliments I think you'll get in football, to be honest, because he, you guys know he's my favourite ever player. So yeah, it is early days. I've never one for judging players on one or two performances. I think any player, any club at any level, you need a run of games to get a true kind of real judgment, really. So we'll see. Loads of new faces as well to be excited about, and does seem to be kind of exciting times. And as you discussed with Christian, the international break kind of came at a bad point for us, didn't we? Because we was all excited about these new signings, and it's like obviously Sangare, I don't think he's even trained with us yet because he's gone on an international duty with Ivory Coast. So yeah, exciting times ahead, hopefully, until the next international break next month.
I know. I hate it. It comes around too fast. But yeah, I think all cracking players who have been involved, it seems like Forest have got a knack of picking up fullbacks on a free, it seems, at the moment. Serge Aurier are doing really well. Elanga obviously coming into his own. That pace is so vital to us as well. And his work ethic and his demeanour, even like off the pitch, seems really, really good, sort of thing. So it's all positive, and it's good for the squad, isn't it? If everyone's in good harmony, I think that's something that Cooper seems to get right a lot since he's come in, which I think is pivotal to us, isn't it?
I think something we dwelled upon a while ago. I think me or Christian mentioned this, and it always sits in my head, was the comment from Sirianos in the Championship, where he was like, "Look, we want to make this team basically fast and energetic."
Athletic.
Yeah, athletic. That's the word I'm looking for. We obviously seen that in the Championship because you had Brennan Johnson on the wing. You obviously had Jed Spence, who was absolutely rapid. And then they've kind of took that into the Premier League now, where he's come back. Like we said, Tyro seems to have, gone up to the next level with his pace. I mean, Anthony Elanga is absolutely rapid. I mean, his pace is basically replacing Brennan Johnson's, isn't it, really? And we'll kind of see with the others as well, because you look at the stats in terms of like Sangare and Dominguez, their kind of pressing and energy seems a lot more than with respect to the midfielders like Freuler, for example, last year. So you kind of think he's put his fingerprints on the team again. And I mentioned this last season, but you need legs in the Premier League. Unless you're an absolutely exceptional footballer, especially in the middle of the park, you've got to have legs and athleticism in this league. And that's why on paper these signings are looking ideal for us, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there was a stat that's come out the other day, and we travel the quickest in the Premier League per for meters travelled or whatever, or directness. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we were top of it. But I think like someone like Morecambe were highest in the AFL or whatever, which is absolutely crazy. Christian, obviously we're rounding up the transfer window. There's a few outgoings to kind of speak about. I think Biancone is going to Olympiacos. It looks like Emmanuel Dennis and John Joe Shelby are going to Turkey. It's kind of, we're trimming the fat quite nicely, it seems, back at the end of the window, wouldn't you think?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I just go back to what you said. So it was the top direct speed of any Premier League side this season, and also the highest share of shots created from set pieces from Forest, which is quite interesting. But no, I mean, in terms of the outgoing, yeah, great. I mean, I do feel a bit for Biancone. I mean, this, like I said, similar about Hudson-Odoi, like at Chelsea. If you get an injury for a sustained period of time, the Premier League is very harsh, and you're forgotten about pretty quickly unless you're a key player. So I mean, seriously, like same to any team. I mean, you can think of a few exceptions. Obviously, like when Van Dijk got injured for Liverpool, that's a bit different. But if you're a French player and you get a 9-month injury layoff, for example, it's unlikely you'll be played again. That's the sad reality of it. So it's just unfortunate for him, and hopefully he can get back to playing his football again in Greece with Olympiacos. And I wish him all the best, Biancone. Like you said, by all means, he's a very nice, pleasant chat to have around the dressing room. But unfortunately, football's merciless and always has been. As for Dennis, I mean, as we said before, in this pod, like from a personal viewpoint, I would like to see Dennis get more time. I thought he was unfairly maligned at times last season, and we saw his quality in the brief glimpses. He did actually get to start games, with 4 goals and assists. I think in like a very limited amount of starts that he had, he's more often not come off the bench. As we saw by the goal against Newcastle, for example, that chip, the technique to do that, like he's very clearly good at football. It's just whether he's a right fit for us is another matter, and clearly keeper thinks he isn't, and that's his decision to make, and we have to respect it. So, good luck to him as well. As for Shelby, you can fuck off. Hope he never comes back. So, I cannot believe there is a team stupid enough to take him. I don't want to say anything, like jinx anything or anything like that. Just clinging on to touching words and crossing fingers and all this kind of stuff. Just get him gone. Like, honestly, like in terms of disastrous signings, it was inevitable we'd make a few bad ones, signing so many. But Jesus Christ, I didn't think we'd go back to those days of signing just mercenaries for the sake of doing so. And I got the logic. Obviously, someone who's been there, survived Premier League relegations before, has a lot of experience. I get that kind of thing, but the actual reality was he was so far off what we needed. This wasn't a fit for us at all. Slowed things down. Like as Reiss said about the whole athletic and sort of like pacey sort of style we're trying to build, he isn't that at all. And good riddance. Just good riddance. Hope it'd be interesting if he comes back with a whole full set of hair after his little trip to Turkey. But
we still can't get rid of Harry Arter, can we?
No, I was literally about to say that. I mean, Harry Arter hanging around Forest is just as bad as Jeff Hendrick hanging around Newcastle.
I genuinely think he'll see out. I think it's just this season. Of
course he will, yeah. I can't even blame him.
No, I can't as well. I genuinely think he'll probably retire after that, personally.
Yeah, probably.
Because with respect, who's going to take him? There isn't even clubs because clubs in League 2 and that they're not going to be like, give you a couple of grand a week when you haven't played for 3 years or whatever it is.
Similar to like Hugo Lloris got told he weren't going to be part of the Tottenham squad, but if you're getting like $5 million for the year, you may as well hang around and then retire.
You only have to see now as well how many free agents there is, because
it's a lot.
Clubs obviously won't take risks on players, and 2, there's players who think I'm not dropping and playing in that level.
I think we've seen that.
Lingard still hasn't got a club, has he?
He's a West Ham, isn't he, Lingard? But I saw. I know obviously some of Beck's point of reference, and I'm not particularly, given if you've listened to Troy Deeney much. Like, I think he obviously exaggerates a lot of his stories, to put it mildly. But I think one thing he said was very. He said because obviously he was asked, like, aside from all the usual vegan shit that gets associated with Forest Green, which is so tiring. I don't care about they sell. They don't sell meat. I don't care they sell vegan sausage rolls. I want to know what they're doing at football. Fuck off. Like, it's so boring. It's such a tired routine. Like, even when they had Duncan Ferguson, it was like, oh, do you want to try this like plant-based burger, Duncan? It's like, fuck off. Let it go. Who cares? They're a vegan club.
He's very PR into Dale Vince. I think decisions. I'm not going to go into some of the decisions he's made, but I think some of them are for PR and to probably amplify his position with just stop oil and that.
Go back to point out. Deeney basically was asked, about why join Forest Green, basically, who are in League 2, and he went, obviously basically loving the game, but he said there's some people he went on holiday with fairly recently who have been without a club or haven't been playing for a year, in some cases 2 years, and they just won't go to League 1 or 2. They see it beneath them. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised some of the players that we have on our payroll, or used to have, should I say, are in that ilk. Like, obviously I don't know much. Is it any surprise Lyle Taylor's not got a club yet, for example? It's like, I don't. If he's, for example, like, again, he hasn't played all of last season. Is the Championship team going to take a risk on him? Maybe.
No.
But it's unlikely. So then it's going to be a League 1 team. Does he want to go to League 1? He probably sees himself above that. He's been earning 30 grand a week for the last 3 years.
So you give kind of like your due respects to like someone like John Bostock, who's ended up enjoying his football, isn't he? Obviously, because he's got promoted with him last season.
It's kind of one of them as well. Like, there's another one for your bingo. Do you know when you played at a higher level? And Danny Murphy speaks about this on Talksport. He says when you played at like the highest level and you start dropping down the league, he says for some players the motivation just goes. And
of course,
and you can.
Not everyone's going to be a Kevin Lisby,
No,
who plays for their 40 at Truro, for example.
I get that. Nathan Tyson's still playing at Ilkeston
Exactly.
41.
Yeah. Like,
So
I get
yeah.
both sides. I do get both sides,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
equally, like,
same.
I mean, if you've made your money, you can't be arsed with it. I do kind of get it, but equally, like, I guess the sort of the football romance side wants you to sort of keep playing till you can't, basically. But each their own, I suppose.
Just bringing it back to Forest, obviously, it's I feel sorry for one person in particular, not because I care that they're going to play for us, because I don't think they would do, but the fact that they're not going to be able to leave the club now until probably January, and that's someone in even Horvath, because he's not been announced in the 25-man squad. Are you surprised that? Are you both surprised he didn't get a move?
No,
at all.
No,
I mean, it could. Is it just Turkey what's open now? The window, are they the only ones
yeah,
left?
it's just Turkey left.
See
Yeah,
it
he can still go.
Yeah, I mean, he's played in Europe. But was it?
Club
again?
Brugge, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to say I know it was a Belgian team. Obviously, the problem for Horvath is a lot of Forest fans looked last season where I think he got the most clean sheets, didn't he, for Luton in the Championship. Nah, they could, I think, sign him for 1.5 million, which, let's be honest, is pennies for the Premier League, and they did not take up that option. So for me, that tells you everything you need to know, in my opinion. I think he's probably a decent Championship goalkeeper, but we're looking to be a decent Premier League team. So unfortunately, the contrasts are vast. I think overall, Horvath, when he did get called upon, the Borough game aside, I thought he was pretty okay for us. But we've said this on the pod before, there's going to be players who, as we advance as a club, sentiment has to kind of go, and we will go past them. There's going to be one who I absolutely adored a couple of seasons ago in Scott McKenna, who after this season probably will, because he's out of contract at the end of the season, he'll probably move on. That's the nature of football, I'm afraid.
I'll be annoyed if he moves for free.
Yeah, you'd like to get a fee for him, but the thing is, if we don't tie him down to a new contract, then teams from outside England can sign him on a pre-contract. So it wouldn't surprise me if the likes of Celtic and Rangers, etc., Aberdeen maybe, even I do think he's better than them. But if they were looking at that situation, I'm sure it might be on the radar.
Yeah, well, I'm going to read you out the squad that's been announced, so we can move into our next points us into the next point quite nicely. So we've got Matt Turner, Odysseus Vlachodimos, as someone pointed out that's how you say it. Wayne Hennessy, Ola Aina, Serge Aurier, Willy Bolly, Felipe, Scott McKenna, Gonzalo Montiel, Musa Niakate, Nuno Tavares, Harry Toffolo and his suspension of suspensions for betting, Nico Williams, Joe Worrell, Danilo, Nicholas Dominguez, Morgan Gibbs-White, Checo Kiate, Oro Mangala, Mr. New Star Boy, Ibrahim Sangare, Ryan Yates, Tyrell Wooney, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Divock Origi, and Chris Wood, and then lots of under-21s, Elanga, Murillo included in that, and Amabamadile, who have signed for us, and a lot of youth players. Christina's lad obviously included in that. I want to ask you both this question, so I'm interested to hear what you say. What do you think our best formation might be, or do you kind of think it might vary on who we're playing and where, in terms of that home or away? Obviously, Reiss, you can answer first.
I think with the squad we've got, it gives us a lot of different formations to play, and it's going to be tough for Cooper too, in terms of, well, it gives him tough and good, I guess, and gives him loads of options to play different ways with different players, and because we've got a lot more depth, it seems, in the squad now on paper until we've seen these players. So I think he would like to play with a 5 at the back, wouldn't he, with the 2 wing backs. I think the signings of Montiel and Tavares would probably suit that system more than Aurier and Aina, who I think are solid, both of them, but probably better in a 4. Sangari's been brought in as kind of the number 6 we've spoken about, what we kind of need. Dominguez can kind of, it seems, be like a bit of everything, isn't it, in midfield, looking at his profile, kind of a box-to-box player. We've obviously got a winger either side, which in terms of Hudson-Odoi on the right and Elanga on the left. I'm not sure why the Athletic article put Hudson-Odoi and Elanga both on the left with no right winger. I mean, Hudson-Odoi is going to play on the right, you'd imagine, wouldn't you? Which and Elanga on the other side, and obviously you've got Tyro with Chris Wood back up and Origi now as well. So there's plenty of options and there's plenty of different formations we can play. I think he'll be flexible and kind of home and away will be different, won't it? Because we'll against probably a dozen teams at home would like to get on the front foot, I think, whereas away maybe you'd be looking more to play on the counter, especially with the pace we've got in the team.
Christian, anything to differ from that?
I think I saw fairly recently that Cooper said that he wanted to have different tactical options for different formations and stuff like that. So I think we now have that flexibility. Like, as I think obviously we can go back to that 3-4-1-2. We have done so far this season. If we're more dominant, for example, we could go to 4-2-3-1. We could go 4-3-3. We have a lot of options now, whereas previously we didn't. We were quite limited in what we could do. Obviously, we went for the 4-3-1-2 in the end, didn't we, last season? That kept us up. But obviously, Cooper wants to be more expansive. So it's good that we have the flexibility. I think it's sort of weird because obviously it came at the cost of Johnson, but it does feel now that the squad's, again, I appreciate this could come and bite me in the arse a bit. It does feel like the squad is more molded better to what we want to do as a football club. Like Rich touched upon earlier in terms of like the style of player we were signing, obviously, predominantly quick, predominantly athletic, predominantly strong, and that applies to all of them. So, it's interesting that we do have a better selection of players to pick from. I think we're a better team now, definitely, than we were say on July 1st, for example, which is always the aim of every transfer window. You always want to be improved by the time you end it. And it's looking positive. I'm just very excited to see where it takes us. I think there will be times where we go, say, 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, like at home, with say Sangare or Yates or Dominguez next to him and Gibbs White in front, like being able to free roam because those two are just destroying everything in front of them. So it's going to be interesting, like how, because obviously I think we sort of saw it at Sheffield United game really, where that was the first time since we've been promoted that we were seen as outright favourites to win a home game. Obviously, I include every game last season that as well, because even the teams beneath us or around us, like even Southampton at home, it was a 6-pointer, but it wasn't necessarily seen as a game that Forest went in as favourites for. It was sort of like, Saints have got 3 at Arsenal recently, sort of thing. Like, whereas this time around, it was like, yeah, okay, newly promoted team, Forest have stayed up, they should win this comfortably, and ultimately we made a bit of a meal of it. So hopefully now we have the players that we've signed. We can afford to be a bit braver in some games. We can afford to be in the front foot more in some games, which I think we all really want as fans. Just like, visible signs of progress and visible signs of improvement. And I think we're in a good place to achieve that this season.
I like that the strategy was not only experienced players, but even players that have played in the league at some point. Like you look at Origi, who's won the Champions League, but played for Liverpool in the league. Ole has come back coming through Chelsea and played at Fulham. Omobile, an up and coming youngster from Norwich. Elanga obviously at United.
Prem though, Omobile.
Yeah, he's played in the Prem. But what I'm saying is, it's a nice mix of like experience and like hunger almost, because you've got like Montiel, is obviously the bingo of winning the World Cup and Europa League and taking penalties. Vlachodimos played Champions League and played for Greece. Murillo is someone that wants to win Champions Leagues and go and almost treat it as a stepping stone. I don't mind that, to be fair. I think that's it's a really good strategy to have. Hopefully that means going forward we build with only maybe 1 or 2 players, but you can splash a bit more money. So the flexibility for home and away and kind of not cater. I don't want to say we're catering to opposition, but we are planning ahead for the opposition. But at home, I would predominantly like us to play 4 at the back and go 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 and really go at teams and show no fear. Really, that's the way I like to see it. But I like that we can change it up if it's not going quite our way, or if we're having a bad performance and we kind of need to sit in a little bit and go on the counter. It gives more food for teams to guess what we're going to do, rather than go, oh, they're going to sit in a low to mid block and we're going to have to break them down. Now it's kind of what Forest are going to turn up, which is always a good thing. But do you think now this is a lot of expectation that's going to be put on the team and Cooper now to press forward, Reiss? Like, how hard do you think that's going to be for him? Because obviously the owners really like hammering it into supporters, even that why should we be happy with losing but having a good go, if you know what I mean. It's probably a bit Olympiacos for me.
I think in this league, because of obviously the massive threat of relegation, I think everyone's really under pressure. Probably a dozen teams, 10 to 12 teams, the kind of thing. I think the first objective is making sure you stay in the league, really, and then it's kind of, well, what more can we do? You've got to be. You can't be like too harsh because these players we've signed, as much as we think they're really good on paper and haven't seen them played in other leagues, the likes of Sangare and Dominguez and Murillo, these players have not played yet in the Premier League. So you've got to give them a bit of time to bed in. There's probably for a few of them, I'd imagine, a language barrier. There's the settling in to living in England and living in the bleeding rain every week. So yeah, you'll always be under pressure at Forest because of kind of the media's narrative of all the money we spent, which we have spent a fair amount of money, and the aim will be to push higher up the league. And we've said this on the pod already this season. There's several teams who I think, and you guys agree as well, I believe, that I think we're better than. I can probably name 5 or 6 what I'm pretty convinced we're better than. So if obviously we are better than 5, that means we'll finish another 2 places higher at least. So I listened to Steve Cook on Garibaldi's Red podcast the other day, and he said we could finish in the top half. So who knows? But yeah, you've got to temper expectations a little bit, but at the same time, you can be optimistic about the squad we've put together. It's a lot stronger than what we had at the back end of last season. I've just looked at like a couple of the benches at the back end of last season. There's probably 6 out of 9 who was on the bench the last few games of the season who aren't even at the club anymore. So yeah, I'm really optimistic, but we'll see after Monday night.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited. Christian, have you got anything to add onto that?
I think like there's always going to be expectation at Forest, and I think, to be honest, that's something that we as fans encourage as well. I mean, I think that I saw someone call it a one-trick pony earlier, which I thought was a little bit harsh, but there was a bit of a sort of cultural reset, if you like, when Karanka came in back in the Championship. And it's because, also we'd had so many press conferences of Warburton saying fine margins when games we lost. It was sort of like, come on, like
plan B.
And it was just better. Yeah, all that kind of nonsense. And but obviously we had players there, and I genuinely believe this is the case as well. I mean, obviously I could be told otherwise, and obviously I'm sure no Forest footballer would ever admit to this either. But I'm fully convinced we had players in that team who knew they could lose games, and it was okay if they ran around a lot. Like, it's like, oh, we tried, on to next week. We'll finish 17th again next year. Who cares? And it's sort of when Karanka came in, that sort of changed. Because do you remember we lost 3-0 to Preston at home? And I think, was it Mills, Traore, I think never played for Mancian, never played for the club again.
Mancian just could not even trap a ball that night.
Mustafa Carriel
it was ridiculous.
Horrendous.
Yeah,
he signed a new team basically, didn't he? A day.
Yeah. And literally, basically, that's exactly it. It's a whole new team in a day. He basically says to you, like, fuck off, you're not going to play for us again. And it was just a big sort of shift because we were so used to, it's very easy to slip into mediocrity, slip into sort of like complacency. We had done that. There's no getting away from it. And, suddenly Karanka's come in and gone, no, fuck this. Like, we are a big club. We're going to start behaving like one. And so that obviously taking that sort of Real Madrid stealing with him that he has where, anything less than a win is acceptable. And that perfectly falls in line with the Greeks' philosophy too. And ever since then, really, with the exception of, and then obviously with the exception of Houghton to a degree, albeit he had his hands half tied, but there's still no excuse for some of the things he did. It was sort of like Forest aren't here to make up the numbers anymore. Forest are here to actually try and get back to a position they feel they belong in. And I don't think that's never going to change. It won't change now. We've signed 13 new players, whatever it is. It won't change if we're finishing 17th. There'd always be expectation for us to win games. So I don't think it's anything that is a shock for Cooper. I think we all know how ambitious the owners are and what they want to achieve. I mean, if they do, we'll be laughing, won't we? But I don't think it's particular. In terms of what expectations raised, I think it'd be maybe more from the fans. So I think now we're at a point now where we may have tolerated being 40% of the ball last season, where we just needed to stay up at all costs. Now we've signed all these players. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. So I agree with Reiss. I think the 5 teams in the bottom 5 now, in my opinion, are all much worse than we are, for various different reasons. If we end up getting sucked into battle with them, playing with 40% possession, then yeah, you'll start to see the fans starting at that point. Expectations will, come into focus. But as for now, it's nothing. Just big club things, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of hope that the fan influence and the support that's been shown over the last 2 to 3 years will keep going, because it's obviously making a huge difference. So that will be good. But let's get on to Burnley. Obviously, they've lost their opening 3 games of the season, all at home to Villa, Spurs, and Man City, respectively. What can we expect from Burnley, do you think, Reiss?
I don't think you can take too much from the cup game, because I thought both teams were absolutely bloody awful that night, if I'm going to be honest. They have signed quite a lot of players, which hasn't really got the attention we kind of got
Yeah,
last season. But
that's because Vinny Kompany is manager, isn't
yeah,
it?
which I do like Vincent Company. He is a proper leader of men, and I always remember that goal what he thumped in against Leicester to basically win City the league, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
that's what a captain is. So I do like Company, to be fair. I mean, I did say in pre-season there was this narrative again built up by the media that they could play the way they did in the Championship, and they did kind of get results. Well, they found out so far that I don't think you can do that. They lost all 3 of their opening games, have they, so far?
Yeah, to Villa, City, and Spurs.
Yeah,
So
and
3 decent teams, to be fair.
Yeah, but 2 of them are at home. Oh no,
3 of
all of
them.
them at home.
All of
I mean,
them.
how many goals have they conceded in them? Is it into
11,
double
I
figures?
think.
11
Yeah,
in 3
I
games
think.
at home. So you find out, as we did, the harsh realities of the Premier League. That if you are kind of a bit of an inferior team and you try and take the game to the likes of the biggest 6, as we say, you'll get torn apart. Look, conceding 5 to Tottenham at home. I know Andrew's gone in, and as much as I like Andrew, he's a bit of a media darling at the minute because he is brilliant in his press conferences, I must say. But it just shows you that a bit of attacking football from going away from Conte Mourinho style that's what damage these type of teams can do to lesser teams. So it's a game we've got to be looking at winning at home. Make no mistake about that. It's a game we've got to be looking at winning at home. And to be fair, I'd like to kind of see us on the front foot, really. I know that might be a bit difficult because Burnley are maybe a bit more set in the ways of playing possession-based football, but yeah, I'd expect us to win against them, to be honest.
Do you expect any of the new boys to come straight in, Reiss, or not really?
It's
hard
a tough one.
hard to change a winning side, isn't it? I know
It's
Danilo might be injured for a
yeah.
substantial amount
Well, I
of
think
time.
Danilo's going to be injured into because it looked like a hamstring injury, which
Yeah.
you don't.
We're not sure on the extent of Elanga's injury
Yeah,
from international break, are we?
it kind of seemed to me with Danilo, we kind of taped him up to try and get him through it, and in the end, it's kind of backfired on us a bit. Yeah, but if Elanga comes in for him, then you're looking at the kind of same 11 what would have started the second half. I'm guessing at Chelsea, there isn't anybody in that team who's done nothing wrong in terms to lose the shirt, really. So if Cooper did go for the same 11 again, I don't think you could have too many gripes. I think in time, with the players we've signed, I don't think that, it won't be. I'm pretty sure that won't be his first 11 because, with respect, you're not going to sign Sangare, who is a club record fee into initially, I think.
Yeah.
I know the media spun. We've spent about 500 million on Gibbs White, but that's a different discussion. But he's going to come into the team at some point. And then there's obviously other players as well who we've signed. So it wouldn't surprise me to see us start with a team that started the second half at Chelsea. And I don't think many could really say, like I just said, no one really does deserve that. So we'll have to see. But it's nice problems for him to have, isn't it? All these selection headaches and that.
Absolutely, Christian. What say you? And would you be tempted to change anything, especially at home to a side that, like Reiss says, we expect to beat? Really, I mean, you can't really beat around the bush. We do.
It's going to be interesting because I think, as we saw as we've seen from Burnley will see this as a game where they can play their normal game, where they have most of the ball. So it'll be interesting to see how we sort of counter that. Obviously, not go too deep, but I think I wouldn't be surprised to see us sort of hover on the counter for quite a while and then just wait. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Andre Santos start either. Instead of Danilo, the one was in it for another to sort of in that midfield space, give it maybe 3 in the middle. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, you are right in what you say, really. I mean, it was interesting the way the the fixture list came out, because obviously we had all the top 6 teams away, but we had all the newly promoted teams first 3 games of the season, where it was. So it's I mean, I would like us to be more adventurous in this game if we could, but I do think we'll maybe have half an eye on how Burnley knock the ball around. And frankly, I don't think they have the players to do it at this level, at least not yet anyway. And we just wait for the mistake, just like Spurs did, just like Villa did, and obviously City's a different story. But don't get me wrong, like I think they've had a tough start. There's no disputing that. I mean, obviously, it's not a favourable run of fixtures. It Villa in Europe, obviously Man City, and Spurs revitalised. Now they've actually got a manager who doesn't feel like they're doing the club a favour by being there. So it was never going to be easy, but equally they've conceded 11 goals at home. Like if you look at those games, if they're away, you could sort of go, you know what, fair enough. We held 6 at City last season. Obviously, Shelby disaster class at Villa cost us a game, and Spurs we held 3 as well. So so we actually conceded the same amount of goals in those games away, but flip it to home, it's a different story entirely. So I think it was like
just 4 at home.
4, yeah. So that's the biggest alarm bell for me, because if they're conceding that many goals away from home, then in theory they could even leakier away. So I would like us to be more on the front foot, but I do think we'll be slightly more reserved, at least initially for the first half hour or so. And if we do get a bit of a foothold, I wouldn't be surprised to see people sort of shake the pack a bit and go for the throat.
I mean, if we can kind of have the killer touch that we did against Sheffield United early doors, and maybe capitalise on a bit of a morale loss there in the Burnley ranks, then maybe we can kind of punish, and then you can kind of get on top of them and really like hurt them. But so we'll see. But I'm interested to see how we go. I wouldn't be shocked to see a change in formation, and it would be harsh to drop someone from the back 3, because all 3 of them have been superb. Obviously, we mentioned Joe Worrell heavily last week on the pod, and so has every outlet, which is deserved, because he's been magnificent, not only for that, and obviously getting through the tragedy he's had. So yeah, it's like Reiss said, it's really good headaches to have. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's eagerly anticipated. We've obviously had 2 weeks to enjoy a win at Chelsea, but before we go, obviously we do need some score predictions. So Reiss, take it away. Score prediction for the Burnley game.
I am going to go with the same scoreline as what we beat Sheffield United, but then I think we'll win 2-1.
All right. Before I go to you, Christian, for a score prediction, Lee Clark has predicted 2-1 Reds. So that's a 2 for 2. Are you making it for 3 for 3, Christian?
Yeah, I think 2-1. I can't see us keeping a clean sheet. I just think that we'll do something silly and they'll score. But yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Forest. I think, yeah, if we can, it'll probably come in the second half. I wouldn't be surprised if we went behind, but I think we'll win the game ultimately.
Well, I'm going to make it 4 for 4, but I'm going to be a bit more convincing, and I'm going to say 2-0 Forest. But it's going to be a 2-0 where Burnley do have their chances, but then ultimately we kind of walk out the ground going, how was it not 5 or 6, to be honest? So that's what I'm going to go for, 2-0 Forest. So that wraps it up quite nicely on this pod. Preview and a bit of a monthly review there for you. There will be a Burnley preview as well with a Burnley fan who's actually coincidentally from Derby, so I'll ask him about that as well. But thank you very much for joining us. If you've enjoyed this one, obviously YouTube was really successful last week, so subscribe and all that sort of stuff. Give us some ratings on Apple and Spotify. We've been getting some nice reviews and some good feedback about quality, and we're trying to sort that, and hopefully that will keep the pod growing and be better than it can be than the last pod. You're really as good as your last pod, aren't you, as footballers say on their games.
Back stronger, as Crouchy says, isn't
it? Yeah, we'll be back stronger. But no, thank you very much for joining us on this one. We'll see you in the next one, and come on, you Reds.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.